And welcome to Infinite Sports Radio on this Tuesday evening. I'm
Woo.
Grunfelder along with Ben Upson. We got a lot to discuss tonight because once again we took another long hiatus. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's happened. Some sports stuff. We can actually talk about current things going on in the sports world. Um, so let's get right into it. But first, Ben, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Kenny, I'm doing great. It's actually the eve of my 20th birthday tomorrow.
Oh,
So,
okay, all right. I
yeah,
to
yep.
be honest, I had no idea. That's really bad on my part.
Hey, it's all it's all good.
But
And,
you know what?
and a good gift.
To be fair though, you didn't know it was my birthday when it was my birthday.
That's
So
also
I'm
true.
so I'm
That's
gonna throw
also
I'm
true.
gonna throw you under the bus for that. So we're even. We're even. I had to do that. But
Right, right. A
let's
good gift though that the Yankees are coming back tomorrow. So
yes.
that's a good gift.
But they already did come back, which we will elaborate on
Yes.
right now. So obviously, a few weeks ago, way back when we were talking about obviously when everything was going to come back, and the main stuff, everything that we love, has started to come back. The NBA, the NHL is on its way. They began practicing today. And baseball is back. A few weeks ago, that's how long it's been since the last time we actually recorded. Um, I was saying how baseball is definitely not happening and that we're not going to see a baseball season, but baseball has returned. They played already. They played 3 games this weekend, 4 games, some teams four. So baseball is back, but obviously with the times that we are living in right now, there's the downside with the Marlins. About what was it, like 7 players testing positive and two coaches or something like that.
And
So
that number's up to 17 today.
okay, yeah. So that's not good, but so far the Marlins are really the only team that have kind of experienced this outbreak, and the Phillies, who they just played, it doesn't seem like anybody tested positive, so that's good. And now the Yankees, who were scheduled to play the Phillies, are now going to be playing the Orioles, from what I hear.
Yeah,
So
at Yankee Stadium tomorrow and Thursday.
yeah, so we kind of hit a little bump in the road, which honestly, once again, during these times, you kind of expect, but it's only one team, and it seems like baseball is going to continue to plow through full steam ahead, with what's going on. So that's good. But the main thing is, let's step away from the bad stuff. Sports are back and baseball is back. And this is something that I, again, did not expect. But then, obviously, listening to obviously your favorite person in the whole wide world, Ben, Rob Manfred, it seemed like it was always his intention to play 60 games. So that's why the negotiations probably didn't, go so smoothly as opposed to, the NBA with the bubble and the NHL with their bubble situation as well.
And look, okay, I understand why the MLB wanted to push for like a shorter season with 60 games because the whole point is, to try and avoid any potential like second wave of the virus that's
Right.
supposed to be happening, later this fall. So the MLB was like, we're going to have to end this season by September 27th, which is what the end of the regular season would have been anyways, COVID or without it. And then, the playoffs, which, by the way, we'll get into that. They've now been expanded to 16
Oh yeah,
teams.
that's right.
I don't
Yep.
know how I feel about that. Um,
Yeah.
but with the whole situation with the Marlins right now, it was kind of expected something like this was going to happen, especially since, Major League Baseball hasn't done a bubble situation, which probably would have been a good idea. But at the same time, you have all these teams playing all these games. With the NHL and the NBA, it's a little bit different because, they're at their playoff stage already, just about.
Yeah.
With the MLB, to play a full season in, a couple hub cities, that just wouldn't really pan out as well. Um, but yes, baseball is back. I think the action on opening weekend was pretty good overall. Obviously, we heard about Justin Verlander, the whole thing about his forearm strain.
Yeah,
Maybe he will be out for the year, maybe not.
yeah, he kind
I,
of like negated some of the reports and said that he could possibly rehab and come back. But again, that's still a huge blow to the Astros, which
right, right.
not
We
really
we
that
saw.
sympathetic towards them. But obviously, yes, you don't want to see people getting hurt, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
especially
and
with a player like his caliber.
yeah, exactly. The caliber of the pitcher that Verlander is, exactly. And we saw a couple Stanton dingers over the weekend as
That's
well in
right. That's right. He
Washington.
did look very good. He
Yeah,
looked
that
very
that
good.
was good. Gleyber Torres was the hero on
Yeah.
Sunday. I mean, look, baseball. It's good to have it back.
It's
It's
good to have
obviously
something
so.
back.
Yeah, it's so different without the fans. Okay, don't get me wrong. The
Yeah.
fake crowd noise helps out the players, I think. I mean, the players didn't seem phased at all. I mean, balls were flying out into the seats this weekend. It,
Yeah.
it, it was a good weekend of action, and it's just great to see, the first major live sport back on television. And like you said, the NBA returns Thursday, and the NHL follows suit on Saturday from Canada. So it's great that these sports are coming back, and for right now, fingers crossed, very low transmission rates of the coronavirus.
Yeah, and especially in the NBA, I'm pretty sure nobody tested positive that the people in terms of the players that were already in the bubble. Obviously Russell Westbrook tested positive. Um, but for the most part, the everybody was fine, so that's good. And then even when you look at baseball, like as well specifically our team, the Yankees, obviously DJ LeMahieu contracted it, Chapman and Luis Sessa, and they also and Chapman's still recovering. They said he's doing fine. I think he did test negative, but they need to test negative twice. But LeMahieu and Sessa are both fine, so that's good. LeMahieu is back playing. He had a hit the other day, I believe, to kind of set up I think the big inning. Torres getting the hit to go ahead, which honestly, let's kind of go through the first three games. So, of course, waiting an extra 4 or 5 months for the season to start. Of course, there was a rain delay, during the game. Of course, with everything else going on, of course, rain is what ultimately, um, kind of puts the first game to rest. But Garrett Cole, he struggled a little bit. He wasn't amazing like we anticipate him to be, but he still got the job done. He pitched 5 solid innings, and hey, he pitched a one hitter. So that
Yeah,
was
exactly.
encouraging.
Well, I
Um,
mean, what more can you ask for? I mean,
yeah,
obviously with your first start, you're not gonna, come out and master your whole pitch arsenal
yes,
on opening night. You got to work your way,
yeah,
into the season. Which, if you think about it, I mean, starting pitchers this year are probably going to pitch maybe what 12 times, something like that, because usually once
yeah,
every 5 days.
mhm,
That's just so awkward hearing that because
yeah,
usually in a regular season, starting pitchers pitch about like 35 times. So this
yeah,
is being cut down to like a third of that.
yeah.
So
So you're
that's
definitely gonna,
that's going to
yeah.
be an interesting to see how that plays out for these guys going down the stretch.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help and it's definitely going to hurt at the same time because then you don't because kind of go to the Mets really quickly is was throwing like 99, 100 miles an hour and
He was throwing gas.
yeah,
Oh, what a great
I mean
start for that man.
yeah, so like when you don't have that longevity and you're not going to be throwing, 120, 130 whatever it is plus innings, you're only throwing about maybe like 86 or something this year in this abridged season. So you kind of could really do whatever you want, but also it kind of messes up your routine of what you normally do during the longevity of a 162 game season. So obviously, well personally for the playoffs, I think it'll be great. Not a lot of people are gonna experience fatigue, and you're gonna get the best of the best really for these extended playoffs, which I think is gonna be great. So
And
obviously, yeah,
speaking,
yeah,
and I was going to say, and speaking, as we go into the extended playoffs here, uh, so obviously it's been increased from 10 teams to 16 teams, which for this year, I mean, I personally don't mind it, but the thing that I don't like really the most of the whole system is that so first and second place. Yes, where was I? Oh, yes, the 10 to 16 teams for the playoffs. I think it's great for this year, obviously with the coronavirus and whatnot. But what I don't like about the system the is that now it takes away, the battle for first place in each division, because
Yeah.
now the MLB said that automatically that I think it's the top two teams in each division make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Yeah. I think so. I think so.
It's something like that. So it takes out that rivalry aspect of it, which it's like at the end of the year, if it's a really close race, it's coming down to the wire. It comes down to that last series. Otherwise, you have to settle for the wild card. But now for this year, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not against it in a season like this. I know the MLB's talking about implementing this going forward. I mean, who knows? I mean, the NBA and the NHL both have 16 teams in their playoffs as well. So maybe this will work out for baseball. So, I mean, give it the green light this year. I guess we'll see what happens. But overall, it's an interesting strategy here that, baseball's putting in place in this oddly shortened season.
Yeah, I was listening to Joe and Evan on WFAN, and they had Howie Rose on, the Mets radio announcer, and he did bring up a good point about how now that they implemented this, now it's there. So now MLB can say, well, we could continue this and make this the new normal, that new phrase that everybody's been using lately, obviously with the pandemic, and kind of use this going forward. And the difference is when you have a lot of teams that, you have, like you said, 16 teams that make, the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the NBA playoffs, they're playing half the amount of games that Major League Baseball is playing. You know, baseball plays 162 games, and it's a long season. There's a lot of bumps in the road that you sustain. Obviously, look at the Yankees last year having all the injuries that they had. It's a grind. It really is. And you have, like, once the playoffs roll around, you have the elite of the elite making the playoffs, and obviously they implemented the wild card game to add an extra playoff team, which some people like it, some people don't. It's a kind of a unique sport with the amount of games that they do play. And, basically now if you implement that into next season, hopefully everything's back to normal and they have a full season, it kind of just takes away from that 162 game grind where you experience your ups and your downs, and that kind of loses its urgency to go out and, if you're struggling, go out and, get back on track. Then you could kind of just take the season and just say, well, we're probably going to make the playoffs anyway. Why do we have to try? I mean, unless you want to fight for home field advantage. So I think in terms of this season, I think you implement it. The next season, you kind of go back to this traditional, second, wild card game, and then, as it always has played out, for our entire lifetime and beyond before that. So, we'll see what happens, but yeah, it's on the table now, so you don't know what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, and really, Kenny, like you mentioned, to put it in perspective, in a normal season, it's 162 games in about 186 days for these players. Now they're being forced to play 60 games in a matter of 68 days. So it's still got, that grind aspect to it where these teams are playing just about every day. But it's just so different in that it's being cut down by almost 65% than what a normal baseball season is. And now what is really curious, I wonder how MLB is going to figure this out, because now you have the Marlins on hold until next Monday, which is August 3rd. The Phillies aren't allowed to play before Friday. The Yankees have missed these last two games to the Phillies. Meanwhile, you have all these other teams that have still been playing across the league. As we're recording this right now, there are teams playing tonight as well, of course. And it's going to be interesting to see what the MLB does with these teams that need to catch up. I mean, you can't tell me that the Marlins are going to play 55 games and everybody else plays 60. Or I think they're going to have to end up scheduling some double headers, like for maybe a week to catch up, because the Marlins aren't missing just a couple days. They're missing an entire week of baseball. And it's probably going to be somewhat of an impact on them. But at the same time, I mean,
they started off the year 2-1.
Yeah, a very impressive weekend in Philly. I saw Jesus Aguilar had a couple homers.
Miguel
You know,
Rojas.
yep, yep. The Marlins actually have, a better offense than what they have had in the past. Now, are
Yeah.
they going to go over 500? Well,
Well, then
that's a
again,
bit of a stretch.
it's a 60 game season, so anything can happen.
Right,
Especially look
right.
at how the Mariners started off last season, at like 17-2 or whatever it was,
And
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 we saw how
also our
that ended up.
yeah, yeah, that went downhill pretty quickly for Seattle.
uh,
Um, we did see our good friend Didi Gregorius though homer
that's
in
right.
Philadelphia,
That's right.
not once, twice this past weekend.
That's right. That's right.
You know what? It's good to see
Hopefully,
Didi.
yeah.
Good to see him showing some early success. I wish him all the best in his career.
Oh
He
yeah.
did his good time for the Yankees. So
No, you know what? No, but what was very upsetting is
you get
you know how we used to do like those the post game Instagram posts or whatever. He
yep.
started doing those with the Phillies now, so that kind of made me a little upset. But listen,
Yeah, yeah.
I am always gonna love Didi. I'm always gonna root for him because you know what? He came into a very tough situation with when Jeter retired, and not everybody was fond of him during his first year with the Yankees, including me. I definitely was um, one of those people that did kind of hate on him in the beginning, but then the second half of his first season, he started to really get better, and I think a lot of people then realized, well, you know what, he's replacing a legend. It's not the easiest thing in the world, so there's going to be nerves that come along with that, and he had a solid stint with the Yankees, and it's a 1 year deal, so you know what, you never know, but I think the Yankees definitely are going to move into a different direction because Gleyber Torres seems to be that guy that's going to be the anchor at shortstop, and I think they're definitely going to try to re-sign LeMahieu to a long extension, because the year he had last year was insane. So, you know,
Yeah, way
but
above expectations for
yeah,
sure.
so I definitely, but honestly, the fact that he's on the Phillies and he's with Girardi, I think that's fine. I think he should stay there. Obviously you have that connection, for the years that Girardi was the manager and Didi was the shortstop, which was about 3 years, I think. Yeah, 3 years, 15 through 17. So I'm fine with
Yep.
that. But
Yeah, and um, also let's mention Kenny the takeaways from Yankees opening weekend in Washington. Overall, uh, pretty successful. We already touched on Cole's performance on opening night.
yeah,
The,
well, it got
the,
it. Well, again,
one the
one
one dent,
one hit. Well, not one hit. Well, yeah, one hit. So he pitched a 5 inning one hitter, rain delay.
yeah, yeah. The one dent this weekend that was not good. Saturday night was a disaster with James Paxton on the mound. That was yike.
I was at
I
a graduation party, so I really didn't get to see how Paxton pitched. I was checking it on my phone, but that was just horrendous. I saw
yeah,
bases loaded, nobody out in the second inning. I'm like, that's just great. That's what I
yeah.
want to see.
I kind of expected something like this from Paxton. Like, I mean, he's always been a little up and down,
Yeah,
especially.
very inconsistent. Very
I
inconsistent.
know there was speculation about how he might have an own injury himself. Since his velocity was down. I mean, we've heard no official reports about that yet. It was a bad start, though. I mean, hopefully, he shakes this off going forward. Like we mentioned, the Yankees have their first game at the stadium tomorrow night, the empty stadium, of course. I don't even know who's pitching tomorrow night, actually.
I think
Um,
it is. Oh, well, I think it's supposed to be Cole, or it's
is
either
it
Cole or Hap, and then
right?
Tanaka and Montgomery are pitching against the Red Sox.
Right. Yeah, the Yankees do welcome the Red Sox in this weekend as well. So
Yeah, how about the Red Sox? Their rotation.
yeah, that's a good segue. Boston's rotation right now is absolutely like
Might honestly be one of the
terrible.
worst rotations I've seen in a long time. I
I
mean,
mean,
their offense is
I
still pretty good even without Mookie Betts, but they don't have
yeah,
Chris Sale. David Price got shipped out to LA and he opted out of this, so that doesn't really matter for the Dodgers. Really, all you have is Nathan Eovaldi, and you
yeah,
know, he's not Chris Sale in his prime. He's not
yeah,
Josh Beckett.
yeah.
He's not John Lester. He's a solid, like, middle of the pack starter. obviously with his stint with the Yankees, and
and
obviously he goes on to
and
win the World Series with the Red Sox. So,
I like Eduardo Rodriguez, okay,
Oh,
but
that's
I'm
right. But
pretty
he
sure
got COVID. He got COVID.
yes, and he also has a heart issue. They were
Okay.
mentioning it on the
Yeah.
broadcast the other night on Nesson. Yeah, I forget what the term was called, but that's not good. Obviously, that he has an underlying health issue with that.
Right.
Yeah, but literally outside of Evaldi and Rodriguez, like last night, I was watching some of the Red Sox Mets game. Actually, they're playing right now as well.
Right.
But last night, it's like their starting pitcher was his last name was Osich. I'm thinking, who?
Yeah.
It's
Hey, and Michael
you
Walker
don't
took it back from 2013 to pitch good for the Mets.
Huh? Yeah, I was just
So,
gonna say Michael Wacha, a nice performance last night for the Mets.
yeah.
Um,
Definitely better than
Mets.
Porcello from the other night.
Oh my goodness! The worst part that was on national television too. Mets
Yeah,
Braves. It was
that
14-1.
was not good.
Yikes!
That was not good.
Look, good signs though for them with Cespedes hitting a homer on Friday.
That's right.
Wow,
That
never
was
thought
big.
I would
Yeah,
say his name.
and typical DeGrom, he goes what, 5, 6 solid innings and they win 1-0. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable. Like we talked about earlier. I mean, I honestly, when people are saying, well, now you got Garrett Cole on the Yankees, who's the better pitcher? Who's the best pitcher in New York? I think it is DeGrom. I think you still got to give it to DeGrom. I don't know.
Yeah,
The
come
guy
on.
is so
Even.
consistent.
Yep.
And I mean, back-to-back Cy Young awards. I mean, this guy is insane. And I was talking to my cousin about this the other day too. I said that if the Mets give DeGrom run support, obviously Garrett Cole won, what was it, like 19, 20. Garrett Cole has won like I think his last like 17 starts or something. Like he's on an insane tear.
I was just gonna bring that up, Kenny.
Yeah.
About the lack of run support that the Mets give to
but
DeGrom.
what
I'm pretty sure
exactly.
they average like 1.9 runs per game or whatever when DeGrom's on the mound.
That's insane. But I'm saying that if DeGrom gets run support, he would have about the same amount of wins as Garrett Cole. So honestly, when you really think about it, in this day and age, you really got to look more at ERA instead of looking at wins and saying, because obviously when you look at Nathan Eovaldi, let's bring him back. He went 14-2 with the Yankees in 2015, but he had like a 4.41 ERA or something like that. So
right.
The guy gave up a lot of runs, but at the same time he got a lot of run support. DeGrom doesn't give up a lot of runs and doesn't get any run support. That's why his records are, what it was like 2 years ago, it was like 7-8 or something like that. And last year I think it was like 10-8 or something. I don't remember the records off the top of my head. But again, you look at
it was just over 500.
Yeah, like if you're just looking at wins, you're going to say, well, he wasn't really that good. But if you look at the ERA, he was really good. That's why he's the best pitcher. Might be the best pitcher in baseball.
And look, like you mentioned, even both of us as Yankee fans, you can't write off Jacob DeGrom as being perhaps the best pitcher in New York. I mean, it's just inevitable.
I mean, I honestly, you can't really. I mean, you can argue it, but like, is it really worth arguing? I mean, it's not like DeGrom is this bum pitcher that's not good, but he is really good. He's insane, and obviously Garrett Cole just got signed, and Garrett Cole did kind of perform poorly in, I think it was Game 1 of the World Series, and he kind of was a little bit. He was a little erratic in one of the starts at the Yankee Stadium. He didn't have his best stuff, but he was still good enough. Jacob DeGrom is very, very consistent. But again, 17 in a row for Garrett Cole, I think, in terms of wins. So I mean, that's got to count for something. So I mean, if Cole is not number one, he's definitely a number 2 in terms of best.
Right,
pitcher.
Exactly. So I've pulled up Jacob DeGrom stats right here. Yeah, of course. I think you can see it on the screen, right?
Yeah. I see it.
Yeah. So yeah, here we are. So look at this year by year. All right. Every year, except for 2016, 2017, that ERA was below 3 every single year.
Yeah.
And from 2014, 9-6, 14-8, 7-8, 15-10, 10-9, 11-8. Like you said, imagine if the Mets just gave him more run support. Jacob deGrom has 66 wins now over the course of,
Yeah.
let's not count this year yet because, only one start.
Right.
So over the course of those 6 years from 2014 to 2019, 66 wins. If he got run support, he could be easily at or close to 100 wins. I mean, yeah, like really. And I didn't even realize he's already 32 years old.
Yeah.
32 years old.
I do remember his first start. I believe it was against the Yankees, and Chase Whitley was pitching. So
Chase
that
Whitley. See,
that
there's a
was
name.
that was a long time ago. That was Jeter's last year. Yeah. That's
There's a
insane.
name.
Time
There's a
time is
name that we
flying.
haven't heard in a while.
Time is flying.
Exactly. But yeah, those stats right there prove that, Jacob deGrom is an excellent pitcher. And at 32 years old now, which is hard to believe,
Yeah.
it feels like he just came into the league, like
Yeah.
yesterday. I mean, it's really something else. But, overall, if I had to grade the Yankees and the Mets for this weekend, I'd both give them, well, no, they don't deserve the same grade.
No,
I would,
I don't think they
I
do
would,
after the
I,
Mets. After Diaz, his typical
yeah, blown
blown
save.
saves. Yeah.
Overall, though, okay. So for the Yankees, I'll give them a B plus. All right, Gleyber Torres looked really nice on Sunday. Stanton had 2 homers. Garrett Cole's debut was fine. Could have been better, but we'll take it
And the
for what
Yankees
it is.
bullpen, granted for its, giving up some hits and, giving me a heart attack, especially on Sunday with Britton and Tommy Kahnle. They did get the job done. So yeah,
Yeah,
I would agree with that grade. I would say a B plus. The Mets, I would give them probably for the weekend. I mean, obviously they killed the Red Sox yesterday. I'd
yeah.
probably give the Mets I would give the Mets a C.
I was gonna say C plus, probably
Yeah.
something like that. That implosion on Sunday night in front of the
Yeah,
world, no less.
it's mostly because of Sunday. I mean, they should have been 2-1 to start the year, but of course Diaz had to give up a home run to Ozuna with 2 outs on a 3-2 pitch. So
Yep.
yeah, I would give the Mets a C.
Also, Kenny, to speculate, since we've seen now, a weekend of baseball, what's your take on the new extra inning rule?
I think it's one of those things that, like we were talking about with the extended playoffs, you gotta like somehow jazz it up a little bit to kind of use that term. I don't really know. I mean, it won't be used during the playoffs. I think it's kind of again just to speed up the game, which I guess is good because when you really think about it, obviously during a normal year we don't want the season to end. We want the season to continue and it goes for every other sport too. We don't want the season to end, but in times like these, you want these games. You want to get as much games in as possible, so you don't have multiple Miami Marlins incidents like we have right now. So right now in these times, I guess it's okay to have it, but definitely next year, get rid of it. Go back to the normal.
Right.
Play till whoever wins. So
And I would say the same thing because I don't know if you saw the other day, but Mike Clevenger, pitcher for the Indians, was not really happy about the system, to say the least. He didn't have many good words to say about it. And, he kind of did put it into a good perspective that it's really difficult in general, to get a runner to second base,
yeah,
in any inning. Most of the time you see, base hits, walks, which, set the table. But, now automatically you're just putting a runner at second. And granted, like you said, the whole point, I think, is, to just relieve stress on players.
right.
Because they're crunching the season in, as quickly as possible. So you're right. This is another thing where it can be a pilot. The MLB can, take it for what it is right now, evaluate it, see how many games go to extra innings, how many, because I don't think a single game has gone past the 10th inning yet. I haven't heard of
No,
a game going into the 11th
I was
inning.
curious. I was curious to see how the reaction, the atmosphere would be if someone hit a walk off, and Matt Olson did do that. walk-off grand slam, I think, against the Angels. And it was kind of just, typical walk-off fashion. Everybody, jumps on top of him and celebrates. I thought it would be a little different, but I guess not. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't think anything other than that. No, nobody's been in extra innings yet. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe
Right.
maybe tonight will be the night. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Actually, you know what? While we have a second, let's take a quick look around the league while we have a moment.
The Ben Upson
So,
update.
yeah, I'm on MLB.com right now.
Yeah.
Blue Jays leading the Nationals 3-1, top of the eighth. Rays 5, Braves 1. They're in the fourth. Cubs are up on the Reds 3-2. Going to the sixth. The Brewers and Pirates, no score in the fourth. Tigers and the Royals, it's a shootout, 4-3 in the fourth. Mets are up on the Red Sox, like we've been talking about, 3-0. They're going to the third.
Yeah, Red Sox pitching
And
is just not good.
and other games, of course, on the slate tonight: Cardinals, Twins, Rangers, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Astros, which will be a good one on Fox Sports 1. Rockies, A's, Mariners, Angels, and Padres and Giants. So obviously those scores will update as we go on.
Yeah.
This is what they are, of course,
Yeah.
right now as we record. So, so baseball is back.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's kind of do our predictions for what we suppose that this all does work out and we get to the playoffs. Hopefully this is the only incidents we have with an outbreak. Because I did kind of want to do that. I did kind of want to do not updates, predictions on who we think is going to, obviously win the divisions and all that. So we're kind of going to do this off the books, because we really haven't prepared for it. But now that we've kind of seen what teams have done over the course of the past couple of days, I guess I'll go first. So I think the American League East, I think the Yankees are obviously going to win it. I mean, it's biased, but this team is ready to hopefully get to the World Series finally. But again, watch out for the Blue Jays, because the Blue Jays are scaring me as to how good this lineup can be. And obviously they signed Hyun-Jin Ryu. They got a nice young core, but the Yankees are going to win the division. I think in the Central, I think the Twins are going to win it. I just think that their lineup is just going to carry them like it did last season. And now they brought in Donaldson. I think this team is going to be pretty good, and it's going to maybe break the home run. Obviously not going to break the home run record, but they're definitely going to hit a lot of home runs. I mean, you see Nelson Cruz at his advanced age, what he's doing. And they got, obviously, with Kepler and Polanco and Buxton, they got a lot of young guys. I think this team is going to win their division. And hopefully they don't play the Yankees for their sake. I mean, hopefully they do for us, because we love seeing them beat up on the Twins. We've seen it for many years now. So I think the Twins will win the division. And then in the West, I unfortunately will have to go with the Astros. I think as much as we all hate them, they're still a very good team. Obviously, we don't know how long. Now, that can all change, obviously, with Verlander being out, because now you have to rely on McCullers and Greinke to kind of anchor the rotation, which Greinke's obviously not what he was, 10 years ago, but he's still a pretty good pitcher. And McCullers is obviously back after, I believe, Tommy John surgery. I think this was his first year, but yeah. So the rotation kind of obviously took a major hit with Verlander getting hurt, but I think this team is still very good. I mean, they show it. So I have them winning the West in the American League. So then in the National League, I think right now with the Nationals off to the tough start that they're right now they're getting losing the Blue Jays, like you said. So they're going to be what, like 1-4 after tonight, most likely. So that's not a good start. So I think you got to go with the Braves. As much as I kind of want to pick the Mets, but I just think the Mets bullpen is just going to, again, their downfall. And I also think, obviously, with Syndergaard being out and Porcello did not pitch good the other night, I think and Stroman being out too, and DeGrom really being, I mean, obviously Walker did pitch good, but DeGrom really being that only guy you can rely on in the rotation, the Mets are going to have to hit their way out of it. The Mets have a very good lineup, but I think that pitching is ultimately going to be their downfall. I think the Braves are going to win the division. I think the Phillies, they're kind of struggling too. Um, I think the Phillies will definitely finish in second place. I think it's going to be Braves, Phillies. I'm going to say Mets, then Nats, and then I got the freaking Mets and the Nationals, to combine to make an average basketball team right now. But anyways,
That's
um, well, obviously that's without KD and Kyrie. Okay, I'm not saying the Nets are a bad team. But
yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
whatever. So that's kind of how I would shape out the standings. I think the Marlins eventually will kind of, come back down to earth after this hot start. Though the Marlins pitching is something to look out for because their pitching has been pretty good. So then you go to the Central. I mean, it's kind of a toss-up, but I mean, because I was thinking the Reds, and then they kind of, collapsed a little bit against the Tigers. Um, I guess I don't know. I feel like it's tough. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Reds anyways because I think the Cubs are not as good as what they were a few years ago. The Brewers have question marks at pitching. You saw that in the series against the Cubs. The Pirates are up and coming. They're kind of all over the place. The Cardinals, last year where they had a pretty good season, they can definitely make the playoffs. But I think right now the Reds, they have a solid rotation. They got a good lineup now. Obviously, bringing in Castellanos and Mike Moustakas and Joey Votto is still there, and obviously you got Aquino and Senzel, the young guys. So I think the Reds can possibly be the team to beat in the Central. Obviously, this weekend didn't really help my case, but they could still turn it around. They got I mean, it's only 60 games, but they could turn it around. And then in the West, obviously, this is easy. It's the San Francisco Giants. I mean, they're just such a great team. Gabe Kapler, such a great manager, taking out Brandon Crawford in the seventh inning in a 1-1
yeah.
game because of analytics. They're a great team. I mean, they lost Madison Bumgarner, Buster Posey opted out. Hey, they brought back Hunter Pence. They still got Pablo Sandoval. They still got players from the glory days. So, hey, let's pick the Giants. I'm just kidding. It's the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to win the division. The Dodgers are probably going to go to the World Series, and they got to get Kershaw back. So Ben, it's the floor is yours.
No, those are all picks. To make it short and sweet, I'll just go the more condensed version. Since you basically are in agreement, most of mine. AL East, Yankees, they have, just too much firepower, I think. I really can't see anybody else challenging them in the East, except like you said, Toronto. I like that their lineup is a bit improved from where it was last year. Boston, I'm not going to count them out yet, but because of that rotation, their team is not going to be.
They got to average like 7-8 runs a game to, stay in.
Seriously.
Stay in.
And they've never really had problems with scoring, at least recently.
No.
So that'll be interesting to see what that offense can muster per game. But yeah, Yankees for the East. For the Central, I love the Twins. I think they'll ultimately be the team that ends up winning that division. Like you said, I love that offense, especially like Max Kepler the other night at Chicago getting 2 home runs. And you know what? It's not really a dark horse pick, but I'm not going to sleep on the Indians just yet either.
Yeah.
How about Carlos Carrasco getting 10 strikeouts the other day too?
Yeah.
It was against the Royals, okay? So it doesn't deserve that much credit. But I'm not going to count out the Indians just yet, but I will favor the Twins in the Central.
Obviously, they don't have Kluber anymore, and Trevor Bauer's now on the Reds. So their rotation isn't what it was, obviously in 2016 when they went to the World Series. So, but it's still not a bad. Obviously, yes, there's still a team that you can still say they have a chance.
Yeah, and for the West, it's got to be the Los Angeles Angels. I mean, Shohei Ohtani went a full, not even an inning, and he gave up 5 straight hits, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, he was terrible. No, not the Angels. As much as I think their offense looks pretty nice.
And Rendon coming back, hopefully.
Yep, that series against the A's over the weekend was really interesting to watch. I caught a bit of the Sunday night. No, not Sunday night. Friday night. Excuse me. That was a pretty good game. But yeah, I think that who am I forgetting? Oh, the Astros. Hello. I think ultimately the Lion cheating Astros will win the division. They still have practically everybody from the World Series last year. Altuve, Bregman, Springer. They have that core still that is powerful, and that's probably what's going to power them to the AL West title again this year. I love the A's though.
Yeah.
Still on the younger side compared to Houston, but Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Marcus Semien, there's some good talent on that team. So I mean, the A's might be one to watch in the end. Over in the National League, though, the East, I mean, look, I could say the Braves easily, especially by the way they obliterated the Mets together. But
yeah.
But you know what? I love the Phillies, the way they look right now. The Nats, obviously they played the Yankees, and I think the Yankees are a better team overall than them on paper. At least I think so.
Yeah.
But the NL East to me is still a bit of a toss up. I take the Braves though, like you said. I think the Phillies will ultimately come in second. Then the Nats and the Mets with a really close battle for third.
Yeah.
It's going to be a packed division. The NL East looks
it's
fairly
a toss-up.
even. Yeah, and in this shortened season, everybody's probably going to be within 5 games of each other in that division. I think.
Yeah, except well, actually, you know what? Let's not say anything because again, 60-game season.
Yeah, the Marlins aren't as bad as they have been.
Yeah,
let's just say that much.
Yeah.
Are they going to do anything much? No, probably not. But let's just say that
you never know. You never know.
Exactly. You never know. The NL Central is going to be a great race. It's between the Brewers, Cubs, and the Cardinals. I think honestly, it could be either one of those three.
No Reds.
I'm not riding high on the Reds necessarily.
Okay. Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, it's good. Now that they have Moustakas.
I just think in terms of their pitching and their improved lineup, I think that kind of makes them the best team right now in the division. But that's fine. That's your opinion.
And and that's a fair argument to make. The Reds are obviously well improved from where they have been in years past. I mean, I hope they do all right this season. It'd be good to see some of these struggling markets for the past 5-6 years. Finally get some positive momentum. Hey, look, we've seen what happened to the Astros after 2014 with 100 losses. So maybe the Reds.
The 2015 wild card game. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
That I was in attendance for.
Mm-hmm.
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I know you did. Dallas Keuchel. But the NL Central. Look, Christian Yelich and the Brewers, obviously, they're a really solid team too. Yeah. This is why that division will probably be the best divisional race, all season, as it was pretty good last year too. I mean, you got the Cubs too, as well, who have a really nice rotation. I caught the game on Friday. Kyle Hendricks pitching a 3-hit shutout at Wrigley. That was a really dominant performance. He went the distance too, 103 pitches. David Ross now the new skipper. A lot of good vibes going around Chicago right now.
Oh yeah, I think that was a good move for them.
Yeah,
because a lot of the players really respect him from when they won the World Series.
Right. I mean, if you had to pick it out of a hat right now, though, I'd go with the Cubs. I'm really liking the Cubs out of the Central. It's going to be wicked close, so that's going to be a division to watch for sure. And then in the West, like you said, the Giants are definitely a dominant threat. They split with the Dodgers this past weekend.
Actually, that is true. They did split. They did split with the.
I tell you what, they did not look as terrible as I thought they were going to. Except on opening night, 8-1.
Yeah,
they're just gonna throw that one in the trash. But
that was terrible. That was so bad. That honestly, after watching that game, I thought they were the worst team in the league. I really did.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad game. I caught most of that on Thursday myself. That was bad. But no, a solid weekend for them. Like you said, Gabe Kapler. I don't mind Gabe Kapler at all. I think he's a decent skipper.
I would
Obviously,
disagree, but
okay. now Joe Girardi in Philadelphia.
yeah.
Of course. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's got to be the Dodgers, though. Are they going to run away with this division? There's the potential, but it's such a short season that they might win only by 3-4 games. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If this isn't a Yankees-Dodgers World Series this year, I don't know what is. I mean, I think the Dodgers can hit 44 wins this year. Yankees are probably going to end up with about 42, 43 from what I'm thinking. A lot of people love the Dodgers this year. I love the Dodgers too. They are by far one of the best offenses in the league, and next to the Yankees too. The Yankees.
Don't forget what we did to them when we went to LA. I just want people to know that.
Exactly. No, I was going to say.
And I get they have Mookie Betts now. I understand that. But just remember what the Yankees did when they went to LA.
Yeah.
They smacked them around a little bit.
Personally, I know as a Yankees fan, it pains me to say this. I think the Dodgers out-edge the Yankees by a slight margin right now, offensively. Pitching probably, is the main factor there. I think the Dodgers.
I think bullpen. I think the Yankees. I think rotation. Would
Yankees win with the bullpen. Yeah, Yankees win with the bullpen. I agree. The starting rotation though for the Dodgers, you have Kershaw, Buehler, who am I forgetting? Come on, come to me.
Alex Wood. Alex Wood.
Yeah, Alex Wood. Yeah.
But he pitched a stinker the other night, I think, right? Or last night?
Yes. No, that I heard. I did hear about that. Didn't look into that game that much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Alex Wood. Obviously, Buehler debuts tonight. That game coming up at 9:10. But, yeah, Dodgers favored for the starting rotation. Yankees favored for the bullpen. That's why it would be epic to see these two go at it in the World Series this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But yeah, so
hopefully there'll be fans by then.
Fingers crossed. I know, but basically, in short, over the last 8 minutes in the AL, I've taken the Yankees, Twins, and Astros, NL. What did I say? Wow, yeah, Braves,
Dodgers.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So those are your division winners.
That's my division. Yep.
So hopefully I'll be right. No, I'm just kidding. We'll see what happens. So I think the last thing I want to touch upon is something big that happened in football was obviously the Jets traded away their best player, Jamal Adams, to the Seahawks for 2 first-round picks. And the Seahawks safety, McDougal, his first name kind of slips my mind at the moment, but
Bradley McDougal.
Bradley McDougal, thank you. Yeah. So now when you really now Joe Douglas, the GM, I think it definitely was a fair trade. I think Jamal Adams is worth, 2 first-round picks. But now the Jets have to do something with those picks. Now, when you look on the other side, the Seahawks secondary is kind of looking like Legion of Boom 2.0. Now you got Shaq Griffin. You got Quandre Diggs, who you acquired from the Lions last season for during the trade deadline. Now you put Jamal Adams in there, and obviously Quinn Dunbar, he's got his issues with the whole armed robbery stuff. So kind of the second and third corner spots are a little up in the air. But, hey, the Seahawks, they're going for it. You could definitely see that. So the 49ers are going to have their hands full. And they did have their hands full last year. So it's going to be interesting to see, but obviously with the Jets, we'll see what happens this year. It's definitely not going to be a good year, obviously, because they do have one of the toughest schedules, along with the Giants as well. I'm pretty sure they both play the NFC West, so that's gonna be fun to deal with that. So I mean, I think you kind of expected it over the past couple of months. You kind of expected it to happen. But now that it happened, now Joe Douglas has to deliver with these two picks. You can love the two picks all you want, but they got to be, you know, future all pros and make some Pro Bowls and maybe win a Super Bowl for the Jets. Because if that doesn't happen, then it was a failure. But you're obviously going to get one of those low end first round picks because the Seahawks make the playoffs almost every year. So I mean, they only missed it once since Russell Wilson entered the league, and that they went 9-7 that year. It was 2017. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the Seahawks definitely are I would say top five in the NFL, top five team. Um, I think, and especially after the year Russell Wilson had, and they kind of fell a little short last season, obviously losing to my guy Aaron Rodgers. But the Seahawks are going to be really good next year, and the NFC needs to watch out. So,
yeah. The Seahawks, I think, both win now in the NFC West race and in this trade. Advantage Seattle for both of those aspects. It's going to be down to the wire again. I think with San Fran. Last season it came down to a matter of inches for the division race.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me, because the Packers were that close to having home field advantage and maybe making it to the Super Bowl, and we would get Mahomes versus Rodgers, which we should have gotten in week 8 or week 9, whatever it was. But of course, Mahomes had to hurt his knee against the Broncos. But again, not his fault. Not his fault. But
of course. But yeah, advantage Seattle. Look, I think it's a favorable trade for them, especially because, like you said, now with Shaq Griffin, Quandre Diggs, it's a good defense now again. Obviously, no one will ever forget the original Legion of Boom, rip. Seattle is looking really solid now. And they're a team to watch out for, like you mentioned. I think they're going to win the NFC West. I think they're an NFC Championship contender. Super Bowl, there's really not. Look, the season hasn't started yet, all right? So we don't know, how well they're going to, really balance out on the field. But I'd like to think that Seattle could get to a Super Bowl this year. I'm thinking that at this point in
Definitely
time.
is possible. I think they are, as much as I hate to say it, I think they are in better position to get to a Super Bowl than the Packers are.
And top 5 NFL team, like you said, I think that's definite. They are definitely a top 5 team in the league right now. Either way, that was a huge trade. Didn't expect to wake up to that one a couple days ago. And also, Kenny, now today actually marks the return to training camps. I'm pretty sure all teams reported to camps today. And look, I'm just gonna come right out and say it. It's great. I think that the NFL is sending these players to camps now. Obviously, 21 positive tests, which isn't a huge number by any means. Out of
still
all
a low
the players
number
that have been tested. Yeah, and obviously, Dalvin Cook we saw has shown up to camp today to get his test.
That's good for fantasy,
which is good
for fantasy.
That is really good for fantasy. But especially since Friday when Chiefs offensive, either he's a tackle or a guard, Tardif, I can't think of his first name. It's like Laverne Duvant Tardif,
weird name,
something like that. But ever since Friday, he was the first NFL player to publicly opt out of the season. Now today we see Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower. There are quite a few Patriots players that have opted
Brandon
out.
Bolden.
Most recently, from what I saw, Marquise Goodwin has decided to opt out of the season, and some other big name too that I saw earlier this evening. I can't remember, but either way, Kenny, there are quite a few players that are deciding to sit one out, which I am all for. Okay, this is a global pandemic. These players put family first over money, which is what we've seen, with baseball with David Price and other players. But, quite a few players are going to end up opting out, I think. It's not going to be as we think it is.
Hopefully it's not anybody like at quarterback, because that's the most important position.
Yeah, that would just be a big loss for any team if a quarterback's to sit out. But look, I know there's some speculation going around about this today, especially with all the Marlins testing positive. Does the NFL necessarily need to have a bubble? I don't know. It's really hard for
Yeah.
anyone to say whether the NFL needs a bubble or not. But the NFL has got to be very, upfront and strict with their guidelines. Obviously, canceling the preseason was a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
There's really no need to send these players out for meaningless games. And besides, the starters play for about a quarter, and then the rest are just, the second and third string guys, which obviously great experience for them. But, that's besides the point. But we've seen now what's happened in the MLB, that the Marlins have, that multiple players and a couple on the coaching staff test positive for the coronavirus. Now, the NFL, like I said, they have to be upfront and strict because these teams are going cross country, something that the MLB isn't doing until the playoffs, of course.
And that'll probably take place in a bubble once you get to the playoffs.
Right, exactly. And so the NFL really has to think about how they're really going to manage this because it is a risk no matter what, going cross country for these games week by week. Now, is the season going to start on time as scheduled on September 10th? I think that's up in the air right now. But look, there will be an NFL season, I have no doubt. Will there be fans in the stands? Let's hope by Super Bowl time that there could be at least 75% capacity because that would be unimaginable to have a Super Bowl without any fans.
I mean, we're already going to have a Stanley Cup and a NBA Finals without fans, so
which is
it's going to be different.
Yeah, it's just part of this new new world that we're living in right now, and that's what it is. I mean, but like I said, Kenny, to really wrap up the point here, though, is that the NFL has to make sure that they get across, what they want from their players and not have, poor lack of organization with Major League Baseball. And look, it's only the Marlins right now in baseball. Okay, so now baseball has to just sit down right now. They have to look at their policies and say, okay, what can we do to further prevent, any more teams from, getting a COVID-19 outbreak? And that's exactly what the NFL has to do going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, especially, honestly, the thing is, though, when you think about it, is the NFL, their season was probably the least impacted by this whole thing. And they kind of seem to be the least prepared for it. So they really, like you said, they really got to hammer down and, get a plan together so they can keep everybody safe and we can have a season. And again, honestly, football for me is the best sport, I think. I mean, I love the Yankees. The Yankees are my favorite team, my favorite sports team, but for me, football is the best sport and we need football. So I'm hoping they get a season off. So kind of the two quick things. Obviously, one major well, actually, they're both major things when you think about it, is Alex Smith was cleared to start football activities, but he was put on the physically unable to perform list. So that's big for the Redskins because when you think about it, the Redskins were in first place when Alex Smith was starting before that injury. So that kind of puts them ahead and makes the Giants the worst team in the division right now when you think about it. I hate to say it, but it's kind of true.
And we'd like to apologize for the use of team name there. The Redskins.
Oh, that's right.
No longer existent.
Yeah.
Actually, we like to talk about this quick.
Yeah.
How
sorry,
about
the football team. The football team.
The Washington football team. That they really couldn't come up with a name now. It's just all right, we're the Washington football team.
I did think about it too. I did think about it as you were talking about, the NFL coming up with a plan for COVID, and I was like, I don't really want to talk about it because it's just, it's whatever. But yeah, the Washington football team, they're keeping their colors, but that's what they're called.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when you're trying to name a team from Madden, you just leave it as the football team and not name it anything else, which is it's just dumb. You can't think of anything before you officially come up with a name. I don't understand. But yeah, so Alex,
and look,
hopefully be the starter for the Washington football team.
Yeah, it's great to see, Alex Smith, obviously, at this stage, now after that horrific injury, of course, that was eerily familiar to Joe Theismann's, mind you.
And on the same day, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, on the same day, the same yard line, like the same score. It was ridiculous how like that many things came together at once. But yeah, Kenny, I don't want to dive deep into it either. Trust me. And obviously, look, with all the protests and whatnot around, the killing of George Floyd, obviously it's absolutely devastating that the country had to go through, yet again another innocent black life that was lost, because of those 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But all these people going around cancel culture and beheadings of Columbus statues. It's terrible that the history of America is really getting ripped apart by all this, because we can't forget the past. Like, the past is what it is. Just because Christopher Columbus was a slave owner doesn't mean that we need to behead statues around the country. It's getting to a ridiculous level. But yeah, either way, I know the Indians now aren't wearing Indians on their home jerseys anymore. It's just Cleveland. And the Braves are looking to get rid of Chop On. Who knows what's going to happen, if anything, with the Chiefs. But and for now, the Redskins, we kind of figured their name change was coming. It's all so dramatic. I mean, I think, look, it is what it is. Hopefully this does, something in the end for, in the fight to end, racial injustice. Let's just hope, because right now I think it's all being overreacted to, especially on the magnitude of changing these team names and whatnot. And I just want to make one point clear. 100% not at all against the Black Lives Matter movement or anything. It's just personal opinions, and I know some people wouldn't necessarily be on board with it, but I think it's just got to be an issue that's got to be addressed. It's good that we're putting our voices out there. That's what I'm saying.
I think the bottom line is, with all of this, I think you just have to stay educated. I think you need to do research and kind of, further investigate a lot of different things, because I feel like, and this goes for both sides, I think a lot of people kind of just look at the first thing that they see and they just assume that that's the truth and that's all end all be all, which in a lot of cases it's not. I think people really need to do their research and, not believe everything that they see, because at times we are all guilty of that. It's a different time. A lot of the stuff I don't agree with. There's stuff I do agree with. But obviously I don't want to go into further details with that. I want to, to stay on track with sports and all that. But, but at the end of the day, I think everybody does want change. And I think we do want the best from this country. This country is, I still believe, is the best country in the world. But are we perfect? Absolutely not. We definitely need change, 100%. So, we just gotta, like I said, we just gotta stay educated and keep doing research and, get the voice out there, get your voice out there. And obviously we do have a big presidential election coming up in November. So obviously you want to get your voice out. There's one way to do it. So there's that. And one more thing, I don't think this happened the last time we had a show, but Patrick Mahomes, 10-year extension, and if he plays and gets all that money, he's going to make $500 million, which, to be honest, listen, Mahomes is insane. Best quarterback in the NFL right now, probably one of the best athletes right now today. But it's just insane the amount of money that athletes make. And Mahomes is now the most recent, overtaking Mike Trout's deal, which I didn't think that would ever happen. And honestly, this was probably the first deal that I've ever seen in football that is like that. And especially because there's no salary cap in baseball, so you can do whatever you want. But the Chiefs, this is going to be good in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to hurt because they're going to lose a lot of their key guys. They're not going to be able to keep guys back because of Mahomes' outrageous contract. But listen, if guys want to take pay cuts and they want to keep winning Super Bowls, that's fine. And then once they have 2 or 3, they can go to another team and get paid. But listen, Mahomes, yeah, I can't say he doesn't deserve it, but it's a lot of money. But if it's anybody that's getting it, it's him. He's the future of the NFL. He's the face of the NFL, and I mean, obviously people thought that with Rodgers back when he first started, but I will say I think Mahomes is definitely going to win another Super Bowl. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. 10 years, $500 million for Patrick Mahomes. I thought that Mike Trout contract couldn't get, any bigger for any sports contract. But now that Patrick Mahomes has inked this gigantic deal, like you said, Kenny, I love it in the short term. All right. I think Patrick Mahomes can easily be great for, another 6 to 8 years. Maybe, I don't know, maybe even longer. It's so hard to tell, when you're looking down the road. We don't know who's going to stay with the Chiefs and where they're going to go if they stay in the league, and there's so many different factors to it. But this is a massive deal. The Chiefs probably shouldn't have signed him to a 10-year, $500,000 deal because it's amazing. So Mahomes is going to be what, like 35?
30, I think 34 when it's over. 34, 35.
34.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a long time. And, I mean, there's quite a few quarterbacks, of course, who stay well into their prime, in their mid-30s. We don't know yet with Mahomes, obviously. It depends who's around him, how mobile he remains for the rest of his career. There's a lot of, things to consider with that as well. Look, Mahomes deserves the money. We've seen how incredible and how, how this guy, comes around like once a generation. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a star right now. He has proved it this past year. It's a lot of money. The Chiefs did really have to pay him this contract, though, because Mahomes wants the money. And it's a lot of it. All right, don't get me wrong. But in general, I think overall this was a good deal for the Chiefs. Even though they had to pay a lot of money for Mahomes, I think it should ultimately, work out for this team. And like you said, another Super Bowl is definitely on the horizon for them.
Yeah, but before that, I want to see Aaron Rodgers win another Super Bowl. I just want to throw that out there too.
Aaron Rodgers isn't getting any younger too now. It's true. He's going to be 37 very soon.
Yeah, 37 in the fall, in the winter. I don't know. But
in the fall, I think. Yeah.
Listen, we'll see what happens. I still got faith in him. Obviously, Devin Funchess, he opted out of the season, so now that makes the receiving core thinner than it already was. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it can make it work.
Yeah. So Marquise Goodwin and Devin Funchess were really, some of the biggest names to opt out so far. Hey, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know the cutoff date for when
maybe they'll find it. Maybe they'll find a cure and everybody will opt back in. Who knows? Who knows? Anything can happen.
You never know. Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, but I think that's all we got for tonight. Hopefully we can, regularly start getting this stuff out here because obviously sports being back, there's more stuff to talk about. But we'll be going back to school soon, as we were talking about before this. And who knows if we're even going to be back in the studio. So we might have to be doing this for the foreseeable future, which honestly isn't the worst thing because we're most likely we will be in the same dorm together. So that'll make things a little bit easier to plan stuff. So maybe even do that every day. I mean, I don't know. But just throwing that out there. But that's all we got for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder along with Ben Upson. Have a good night, and we will see you next time.
See ya.